Hello, everyone. Southall Grandpa here. Also, my name's Rich. I'm an addict, alcoholic, old carpenter, construction inspector, uh, getting ready to retire, grandpa, and I'm gonna leave off kind of where I'm gonna leave off where I was this morning. I was talking about Jeff and Joe, my twin boys, who were when they were born. You know, after when they came home from the hospital, Henry, stop it. When they came home from the hospital, um, when they were in the hospital, after the kids were born, my cocaine use just skyrocketed. You know what? Before my wife came home with the babies, I had the whole house spotless. The bed, the nursery was set up. Everything was in order. You know, I wasn't sleeping very much. I was drinking a lot. You know, and I was probably out of my mind. You know, because I didn't know how to be a father, and I think addiction really kicked in extra strong at that point in my life. Uh, you know, we lived in Temple City on Danes and Welland, and when the boys, you know, she got pregnant again with Kimberly, and then after Kimberly was born, we had to find another place, so we moved to Covina. You know, that's where Laura was born. And I think I almost missed Laura's birth because I was out doing cocaine and drinking, and and that was, you know, between '84 and '87. I think I went through rehab before Laura was even born. You know, maybe I shouldn't be saying the names, um, but I went through Los Encinas, and it was like a vacation. That's, you know, I didn't do drugs for 28 days. The day after I got out, went over to my buddy's house, Gordon. I was the best man at his wedding, and we lit up a joint and smoked it, you know. And said, as long as you don't drink, as long as you don't do cocaine, you should be okay, you know. But you know, and I fought the program from day one, you know, especially when I did go into rehab. You know, I read the first time I read the big book, the portion of chapter 5, how it works. You know, they said, hey, well, maybe the dog's barking at me because I'm supposed to be doing something. What do you got? There's no ball. Oh. Here's Henry's ball. There's Henry. I'm going to close the garage now. Now get out. Go on, get. I am in my garage. I try to do the afternoon versions of this in my garage. Sorry for the interruption, but getting back to where was I? You know, that's another thing. Maybe the drugs and alcohol did something to my mind, you know, because you know, I go from one thought to another thought to another thought. But today, you know, I have been off work, and you know, I didn't go to a meeting today, but I did come out in the garage, and I started working on one of my projects. That chair over there that's leaning was broken, and I glued it up. And after I did that early this morning, and my back started bothering me, I said, well, you know what? I guess I'll go in and watch a movie. And I went inside the house, and my brother called me and said, hey, you want to go to the casino? So we went to the casino. You know, didn't eat nothing, I already had breakfast, so we only spent like an hour there, lost maybe $80, something like that. Saw Dave, my oldest brother, and his wife, and one of his kids, and called it good, you know. My brother needed to get out of his house. He's selling his house, and it's a little stressful. So, but with that being said, getting back to the subject at hand, you know, about the kids, you know. You know, my first sponsor told me the only way to make amends to the kids is when I got clean. You know, they were you know, they were short. They were young. And he says the main way you make amends to the kids is to stop the behavior. And so I stopped the behavior. You know, and When the boys were maybe in 7th and 8th grade, I told them my story. I told them, all the stuff that I went through, going to jail and all that stuff. The reason I told them that is didn't want them to walk down the same path. And I told them at that point, I said, you could do whatever you want as long as you're willing to pay the price for it. And that was like the conversation I had with my granddaughter yesterday. Hey, if you can't have self-control with social media, it's becoming a problem. You got to focus on the solution, and take the opportunity to don't miss the opportunities. It's like when I'm getting old now. Well, I heard somebody say, and this is good advice, especially for the old folk. When you're leaving a restaurant, don't pass an opportunity. If you pass a restroom, don't pass it by, because you can be doing the potty dance by the time you get home, especially drinking all the iced tea and coffee. Speaking of those, Rich, wet my whistle. But if it wasn't for cocaine, kicked my ass, and I'm knock on wood, that I am alive, and I feel truly blessed. I really do. So, with that being said, it's 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the video. I do ask God for help on a daily basis, and like I said earlier, I need to keep pedaling, keep my feet on the pedals, and even sometimes today I coasted. I wasn't doing much of anything. And gambling can be addicting too. But we walked out of there. I don't think my brother was in a good place, but when he called me up, I didn't really want to go to the casino, but if I read between the lines that he was reaching out, so an hour in the car each way, we have a little conversation. Even though he drives like a maniac, Russ, you do drive like a maniac, and I apologize for that, but you just put it on cruise control and cruise. We're too old to be going, in and out of lanes. Let's get there in one piece, and that's the key too. Get there in one piece, and how do you do that? You be chill. There's no, why rush, to get to the other side. Enjoy what's the scenery on the road of happy destiny, and we keep on trudging, and I got some wild dogs outside. They're probably mad at me. Henry was barking at me earlier today. And I figured out, I thought he was telling me that I was in the house watching a movie, and I thought he was mad. It was one of those, like he was playing like Lassie and barking at me. I get out there and he just has the ball in his mouth. And I looked at the clock, and it's 1 o'clock. I said, wait, this is way too early, dude. It's normally like 3:30 or something when I would come home and we would throw the ball, but I did throw the ball to him. I'm a sucker, and I just try to take care of him to the best of my ability, when I go lay my head down at night, I have no regrets, for the day. I do have regrets of the past, by not talking to my dad and mom and paying attention a little bit more. I used to come home loaded and talk to my mom and wake up in the next morning, and she'd be watching Johnny Carson and counting her tips and stuff, and we would sit there and talk and have, we could figure out how to cure all the world's problems. And I'd wake up in the morning and I wouldn't remember a thing that we talked about. If I could only recorded, some of the conversation that me and my buddies used to have, especially when we were sitting in a room, all tweaking on or high on acid and smoking pot, and some of the ideas that we had, we could be multi-billion, we could be Elon Musk, because we came up with some really good ideas, but, we were just too dumb to record them, so God bless, see you in the morning, do something for somebody else for fun or for free because you want to, with no expectations in return, and we'll peace out.